I had the idea that I would start with a little girl and her stepfather living somewhere remote, right on the edge of the wild, and something extraordinary happening. She's recently lost her mother. Dan was married to, and they are both coming to terms with that. Dan is still reduced by grief and unable to communicate properly with Minnie. But I wanted to show a little girl finding the resolve and the determination to just get on with life, because that's what kids do. That's all they know, to get on with their predicament and make the most of it. So I started off with Minnie's story. The idea came from having done a lot of research on Sasquatches, going right back to 400 years ago when European pioneers and settlers came to North America, and Native Americans warned them that there are big hairy people in the woods and you should be aware of that. And these Native Americans had their own name for them in their language right across the country. Of course, they didn't have the internet, so Native Americans weren't kidding about this. Why would they make up such a story? I thought multiple stories of these large hairy beings from the woods and mountains interacting with them, usually peacefully, but sometimes aggressively. And so I looked into it, and the more I looked into it, the more I found that this region of northwest of the North American continent was pretty much a hotbed, so I set it there. Minnie embraces her environment, and by the end she resolves, although she hasn't said so in words, but I hope the feeling comes across that she's resolved to forever understand as much as she can and study and be in nature. That's where she is. She feels she belongs and wants to live and grow. And we'll see what she does with that impulse. I've done hundreds of hours of YouTube research, and actually since I first started the book 2 years ago, I've learned a lot more about the subject, and it's much more interesting and deeper and mysterious than I thought initially. The community of the Sasquatches I've created is speculation, of course. I haven't lived with any Sasquatches, not yet, but I've heard them speaking, apparently, on the internet, their voices, their howls, their knocks, and I've seen what they do to express themselves in nature, apparently, which is to build structures. So I've used that in the book. They have different structures, which to them mean different things. People believe that the giant X's they erect, huge X's in the woods, with no root ball, so they've knocked it over and brought it over from somewhere else and put up these massive X's. Some are small, some are huge, which would be, the military could fake that, and Boy Scouts with a working knowledge of pulley systems might spend a week erecting two enormous tree trunks, usually stripped bare of their bark and hoiked up into the sky. But why would you do that? And often they are many, many miles from the nearest parking place. You have to hike miles to find them. So I've used those structures and incorporated them in the story and given them their own meaning. That's how I've developed the idea of a sense of community, and the rest I just made up. I tend to believe in these forest beings' existence because I've done so much research. I've read so many books from scientific types and other researchers. I've watched every available video, and the clever analysis of those videos by video experts of them walking, particularly the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film.
BIGFOOT.
And I've watched so many witness statements on YouTube and other places that it seems highly likely that they are there in their thousands. According to Native Americans, they've always been there. And they're not monkeys. They are forest beings. They're people. In fact, the Sasquatch Genome Project some years ago presented over 100 DNA samples to various science labs around the United States. And the DNA came back part human, and part unknown relic hominid, an upright bipedal human type of being that they can't identify, that crossbred thousands of years ago with Homo sapiens, is what they came to decide it was from the DNA they gathered. Make of that what you will. The Sasquatch Genome Project is widely available to read. There are many books I can recommend about it. Yes, there's a part of me that romantically likes the idea of there being more to this world than conventional science will acknowledge. Giant squids were mere folklore for hundreds of years until scientists went, oh yeah, okay, you're right, they do exist. So, yes. The northwest coast of the North American continent seems to be a bit of a hotbed, particularly British Columbia and Alaska. It's a temperate rainforest, so everything grows. There's plenty of rainfall. There's no shortage of food and cover. It's a dense, dense forest, a tangled mass of fern and moss and trees and roots and bushes, grass and streams. There's plenty to eat for anybody who knows where to find it and what to look for. Mushrooms and berries, all kinds of fruit, depending on the time of year, insects, reptiles, larger game, plenty of water. It's a fascinating part of the world and really beautiful. And in the summer, yes, there's mosquitoes in certain places, but it can get pretty warm, but it never really stops raining for long. So there's always water. It's the ideal place for a large, hairy, bipedal creature to hide away if they wanted to. I describe in some detail what young Kaayii looks like and the other members of his clan. Typically, the very large Sasquatches found in Northwest America have a conically shaped head, almost 45-degree angle from the head to the shoulders with no neck, hugely muscle-bound. Chest of an adult can be 3 to 4 feet wide. They can be, when fully grown, from 8 to 10. There've even been reports of taller of these beings. But it's easy to do your research and to find witness drawings, very good drawings, some if you dig deep enough, of what they look like. And their facial features vary quite a lot, from looking quite human to looking less human. Of course, the eyes are very wide apart. That very good movie, Harry and the Hendersons, the costume that the Hollywood special effects people built was really good, I thought. It was pretty good, and they had a big guy in there. He might have been 6'10", I don't know. The only problem was his eyes were, like mine, the human distance apart, and so his eyes are too close together. Really, if he was a Sasquatch, his eyes would be out here at least somewhere, because the heads are massive, apparently, if we believe them to be true. They all vary a lot. There's been white ones, red ones, rusty, reddy brown, black, brown. Yeah. I suppose I wanted children to go away with the idea that in life sometimes bad stuff happens. And at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, I think they're ready to begin to understand that, or try to understand that. Minnie's lost her mother. She's got her little friend Billy up the track, his mum Connie, who she loves clearly, and Dan, that's all. She employs inherent positivity and open-mindedness. And by the end of the story, I hope the reader would appreciate that if you remain relentlessly positive, if you can, and keep an open mind, you can make good stuff happen.